Hi, Fiends. Thanks for joining me for part two of the interview with Anastasia C. Kouloukas and David Black for a badass bunny.
So he wanted to do an Aussie film, but not necessarily a horror.
Oh,
I
Now,
think
from what I've read and what I could see of the trailer, it's horror, but it's got the comedic aspect to it as well.
well, I don't believe him in the first place because he's a big fan of Dario Argento. So
Oh,
what
well,
I
there you
what I
go.
what I think he was saying is let's make a few less horror movies and make other types. Well, I think from then till now we have done quite a lot of other types. We've done sci-fis, we've done a lot of things. What we haven't gotten away from much, except for one or two films, is comedy. And the last one of the biggies I did with Anastasia was one of the few that is not comedy. Sinister Symbiosis. There's nothing
yeah.
funny there at all.
Well, I mean, no, I don't even know what could be classed as humorous in that. It's more horrific than anything else.
Yeah. So that's
Pure
one of
horror.
the ones where we moved away from comedy. So Sinister Symbiosis is dead set gory, but I can't say that. Then we did a very serious sci-fi.
Mm.
You bring out the serious side of me. That's terrible. But what was the sci-fi we did? Parental
Parental
Duties.
duties.
So that one was another serious one. There's nothing funny in that. So that's a serious dystopian sci-fi.
It's because it's drama.
Yep. So all up, I'd say out of 40 short films, 3 are not comedy. Just
That's pretty
3.
good.
So yeah, if there was anything we didn't get away from much, it was comedy. But I do believe that we got away from horror a bit because Parental Duties it's sci-fi.
Got a little bit of everything
Definitely.
out there in your repertoire. So,
Almost. We haven't that Parental Duties is as close as we'll get to a drama. But it was Glenn that
Maybe
brought this up with me with dramas. Glenn said, "Oh, you're not going to do a drama like those students do, where people stare off into space looking lovelorn and you hear plinky plunky piano music in the background, and they have these scenes going on for 10 minutes." And I said, "Hey, he's hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I want to avoid. Isn't that what the shit of 90% of Australian television is? Whether it's Neighbours
yeah.
or
I have a quote from an acting teacher. One of my subjects, we had a lady. I think her name was Karen Watson. Not our Karen, another Karen. Um, another Karen Watson, and she actually directed Blue Heelers and stuff, a couple of episodes here and there, and neighbors and stuff. What she described, that exact phrasing of looking over in the distance, is smelling a fart.
yeah. Well, one thing that has given Australia a bad name. What's that one from Sydney? There's another one,
Home and Away.
Home and Away.
Or,
Now, Home and
yeah.
Away and Neighbours, they're probably the most watched Aussie shows overseas. They
Mm.
give Australia a bad name. They are chock full of that plinky plunky piano music and the 1,000 yard stare and the angst and the
Smelling a
bullshit.
fart.
now you
And
mentioned Karen, and you said not our Karen. And it's clear you've got a small group of people that you all work together regularly. Are is that small group of people that's all involved with Bunyip? with you?
Bunyip,
Yes.
I brought in everybody that I'd worked with before who we were still working with. When I felt that I started a great, big, exciting journey with a group of people. I remember we did have lots of discussions and stuff. Anastasia was one, Vixie was one, Glenn was another, but it was a far bigger group at the time. So I felt this camaraderie, like we're all of us together to achieve something, like we're a sports team or we're an army going off to war or something. But one by one, different ones fell by the wayside, most of the time through arrogance or greed. I lost 2 because they passed away. Guy Jukes passed away. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
He was with me from one of my very first ever music videos. So the first music video he worked on with me was Inquisition. I think we're getting to over 10 years old now. Well, I kept in contact with him all of this time. I'd go to nightclubs and go to places with him. And then he was involved with some of my earlier films, including Dark Night of the Zomboogies.
He was the AD. He was our assistant director, our second assistant director, I think.
He might have done some camera work too. We had multiple cameras. But yeah. So I lost him, and I lost Peter Spoart too. Do you remember Peter? So yeah, some people have passed away. So yeah.
So the core group that you have now, it sounds as though you've all grown together to move into where you are now. So
yeah, I'm starting to learn that I've got to stop thinking the way I was, not talking about the negative stuff I just said, but Gerardo did point out to me on the previous, I've got a film that came out just this morning. I haven't even publicized it yet. It's called Time Goddess. Anastasia's not in it. Glenn wasn't involved. Vixie wasn't in it. And soon after that, Gerardo mentioned something to me about a lot of the people not being with us anymore. And they're not. And those are the reasons. But I realized that although films don't feel like they're my films without the crew, without what I've got to change in my head is Anastasia, Glenn, and Vixie are all going to go their own ways at some point. And we'll
don't know about that.
Well, we're all going to remain friends forever.
Always.
But if the call came in from an overseas place tomorrow and they said, Anastasia, I saw you on Badass Bunyip and I saw you on this and that. We want you to be the new Khaleesi in Game of Thrones 2. We would lose you and we'd be happy to. I wouldn't be able to say, oh, I can't make my next film because Anastasia's not in it, or I feel really bad. I shouldn't feel bad because I was very open like a puppy dog at the time we made Dark Night of the Zomboogies, wanting to meet everybody. I can't close myself off. We have new people coming in all of the time, but it's normally just one new person or 2 new people into the group. Well, the group has fallen by the wayside a lot for the wrong reasons, but whoever's stayed the path now, I think everybody's just on the cusp of being made some sort of offer, or we're just on the cusp of breaking through. So it means I'll have to say goodbye when the time comes.
Well, that doesn't mean that there won't be opportunities to be reunited.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually one of the lovely things that I get to see at the conventions here, as you don't have the similar things there, is they'll do like reunions. They'll do the
Warriors reunion.
The Warriors reunion. I actually, yesterday was the 49th anniversary for John Carpenter's The Thing. And, I was at a John Carpenter's The Thing reunion at Monster Mania, and John Carpenter and a number of the actors were there. And it's a lovely thing for the fans. I imagine it's a beautiful thing for the actors, and for like John Carpenter, the filmmaker. So I can't, to a degree, the fans get wrapped up in watching you and they get wrapped up in your characters. They get to hate them or like them, but either way, they get to know the aspects that you're presenting of them.
Well,
I can't
hopefully
imagine how
this
much
film
more
takes off.
that would be, that feeling of solidarity with you doing the films together, making them. Because if the fans feel that way, I can't imagine how much more intense you would feel that way. So
we'll have to see how this takes off. I believe it's got all the elements to take off. You've got things in Badass Bunyip that for an overseas audience, they have never seen before.
I'm excited about that myself.
They won't,
I really
they
am.
won't have seen Aussie characters like Bogan's pure in the raw.
No.
Now, there is, actually, they might have. I just remembered Wog Boy 3 is being done right now by Nick Giannopoulos. Now, I'm not trying to promote Wog Boy and Wog Boy 3, but he does present the characters in the raw. They might be your Greek Bogans, but Greek Bogans and your Anglo Bogans are always in the same groups and doing the same things. And the difference in culture is very hard. Well, the difference in culture is really just the parents. It's not the people. Because, when I went to Caulfield Tech, I had a lot of the Greek Bogans that would be around me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't see a lot of difference in, good day, mate, and g'day, mate. They both sound the same to me. So, yeah, Nick is actually doing something similar to what we're doing with Badass Bunyip, but that's one of the rarities. And I don't think Wog Boy is going to make it overseas anyway. It's just going to be one of those big things in Australia. We don't actually promote much to Australia. Everything I've got virtually goes out overseas with very little in Australia. But yeah, overseas, most people won't have heard of Mimi Spirits. They won't have heard of the Khadija Man. They won't have seen Aussie culture uproar in their faces with, God, I'm as dry as a dead dingo's donga. They won't have seen that sort of thing. So we've got
I think a lot of people here, their familiarity with Australian culture would be Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably what for your average person who doesn't actually keep their eyes open and look into it, that could very well be a lot.
Well, my short films, the humorous ones, are very much influenced by Paul Hogan, but probably a Paul Hogan that they didn't see overseas, because long before he did Crocodile Dundee, there's many years of him being working his way up. And we had the Paul Hogan Show, which is a comedy skit show. And yes, he's unashamedly Australian, and he had lots of different characters. Now, in a way, my stuff's similar to his, but a little bit. He also took a bit of influence with Benny Hill with the sexy side. There's a lot less of that in my films because culture's changed. So people might still like.
That does not bother me. I'm not a big Benny Hill fan. My husband really is, but I'm really not. So it doesn't bother me. I don't have the Benny Hill aspect.
Yeah, but you and me are about the same age.
Yes.
If I'm sitting down talking to someone like Anastasia, I mean, she will see something totally different with Benny Hill. Yes. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Anastasia, but you don't find it funny to see a leering old man chasing after a woman who's who's just lost her top.
No.
Yeah.
But you've also got to go back to the times. Yeah, times have changed. That sort of, actually, there is a tiny bit of that Benny Hill humor in Badass Bunyip, but you saw the assembly edit. There is a girl that gets her top ripped off. She doesn't go topless. So there is that sort of joke, but that's not one that
there's one. Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, I didn't script that in. That's not one of my kills.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When exactly is this coming out? And how will people see it?
It's going to go out for free on YouTube. technically
Has
3
become
weeks from
a
now.
brave new world for films. That's great.
Well, the reason why I'm putting everything out for free is because I decided to go with a different business plan. When I first got into the indie movie industry, there was like a group think, everybody repeating the same nonsense about how you do stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, Anastasia, but we go back 5.5 years to Dark Knight of the Zomboogies.
Yeah.
How many of those people have actually made it? Zero?
Probably. Yeah.
It has. It's been zero. So the first thing I did for the first year was absorb everything that they were saying, trying to learn everything. The second year, I'm talking to all of the people that I know and saying, well, hang on, this one spent $2,000 to go into film fests, got themselves 150 laurels. Is that really the way? Did they get anywhere? Starting to question it like an adolescent questioning life.
Yeah.
Becoming quite rebellious, saying, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. And then year 3, trying to find my own ways of trying things. And, well, we had a bit of success here and I fell on my bum there. Now that we're in year 5, I'm convinced the freemium model is the best.
Yeah.
Freemium worked with street press. For instance, when I was in my 20s, I was actually a cartoonist. And I was a cartoonist for Juke. Juke magazine was bloody huge. If you're into rock music, there are only 2 magazines in Australia, Ram and Juke. Juke came from Melbourne, Ram came from Sydney, and they're on all the news agency shelves. And along came these upstarts that were the street press. Well, they gave their newspapers away for free. What happened was
revolutionary.
They didn't go into the news agencies because you can't sell something that's free. The news agencies don't want to distribute something that takes up room and makes them no money. They put them for free into the pubs and the nightclubs. Within 2 years, Juke and Ram had gone under. They were the biggies. And the Bible for rock music now was Beat and Impress. You wanted to know what was going on with the clubs, you picked up Beat, which was like 90% ads and a couple of advertorials. But what they did was they sold the advertising, gave the magazine away for free. It's a freemium model. They used the free. Now, we don't have to talk about ancient times. I play World of Tanks. Free. It's a massive online game, but it's a freemium model. You can get more points because you took out a subscription. You can buy your gold to upgrade your tanks, and you can buy tanks. Well, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. They make a lot of money from World of Tanks. Freemium has always worked. Facebook, Zuckerberg didn't go broke making it a freemium model. We use Facebook for free. So I decided to go with a freemium idea. I'm a hobbyist. I'm a telemarketer during the day. And as soon as the workday is over, I'm into the filmmaking and I'm self-funding. And I also don't need anything more than the roof over my head and food on the table. So I can do the freemium model and pray it works.
It be there for the people who are going to want to see it and then want to see more that you've done. And hopefully that will perpetuate.
And for me personally, if it never takes off, this is my hobby. I mean,
you've done it right.
If I was still painting up Warhammer figures, I think it costs $350 for your Warhammer set now. By the time you've pumped your money in, well, let's go past Warhammer because Warhammer is expensive, but not that expensive. Every year, your average working couple in Australia will go on holidays and they'll spend money to go on holidays. What's that? A $5,000 to $7,000 expense?
Probably. I don't know. I haven't done that yet. So
well, that's more than the money that I'm spending on the films. Instead of having my overseas holiday each year, I'm spending it on the films. And I've got something to show for it. It's not a photo album of, say, here's me at the Taj Mahal and here's me at the Eiffel Tower. It's like, here I am being
Being
stupid
tested.
with my friends. We're being zombies and go, woo!
I
You
can
know?
so relate to that because for me, it's going to conventions, and even if I'm volunteering, which is actually more to my nature than just going, kind of working it, and the times that I've had to actually sit with the celebrities and taking their selfies with people and things like that. That's for me, that's just wonderful. But even if I'm doing that, I'm still paying for the hotel.
Yeah.
you know
And the
so, and
travel.
of course I'm still buying the stuff that I can only get at the convention. So that is my vacation. That's what I do
Doesn't it
instead of a vacation.
doesn't it make you feel alive? I mean, not only alive, but you've now got something to look forward to next week and the week after, and you're motivated and you want to get up every day and do something. Um, I got into this, and now I'm talking stuff that Anastasia knows that is not in anyone's podcast I don't talk about. I got into this after recovering from cancer.
Oh,
Before before the first shoot, the very first shoot I did was somebody else's. Like I said, I eased into this. But my first big yay moment was that I managed to go after work to a film set, be there 4 hours, come home and still get up in the morning. 6 months before, I'd be having to leave work at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the day because I'd be exhausted. And my big worry was, if I'm asleep at 4 o'clock, will I have enough energy when I wake up at 8 to get up and to get into work? Will I've woken up? I mean, I went through a bad one, and I came out of it and I found a new purpose for living, which was the films.
I will
So
actually be 11 years cancer free next month myself.
that's about it for me too, because it was 5.5 years for the films, but it was 5 years of having to go back with the chemo. The chemo was like the first year or two, chemo and operations, but there was 5 years of going in and still having to get on the table and be checked, which basically is an operation, a very worrying one. So there's 5 years of that. And I didn't get my energy back in that 5 years. I mean, I got told, oh, no, you'll be fine. Go to work after the first operation, give it a week and you'll be right as rain. And 5 years later, I'm thinking, what's gone wrong? I can't find anything on the internet. What's happening here? So I didn't have the energy and I was struggling. Life was just, life was working around trying to get from A to B, because it was bladder cancer, trying to get from A to B without needing to go to the toilet. I looked like
Basically impossible.
well, I basically looked terrible with the clothes I was wearing, was being made fun of by people because I couldn't make it from St Kilda to the city to buy stuff and had to stop somewhere halfway and buy whatever was bloody well there in the shop, then run around the corner and find a lane to pee in without being arrested, then get on the tram, come back. It took a long time to recover. There were a lot of things that I had to take into account. I was depressed as anything, and I don't know what bloody poisons they put through my body. Yeah, bouncing back with the movies themselves is a great thing. So
That
when it
makes
comes,
so much sense to me.
so
Mine was actually easier. My cancer was in my lung, and I never smoked. I ran. Then I ran with cancer in my lung. But fortunately, I coughed up a clot of blood, and the tumor was on the bronchial tube.
yeah,
So they got it when it was very early before it had spread. And even when they went in and did the biopsy, he didn't do it aggressively because he didn't want to make it spread into my system. So really, they just took part of my lung and they got all of it. But because I've been a type 1 diabetic my whole life, they
yeah.
actually gave me a 6% chance of not living through the surgery.
Oh,
So to a degree, you have to come to peace with life and death.
and well, at our
But
age, you're
once
also
you
looking at
do,
something different too. I mean, I look at my parents and I'm saying they're very elderly. My mum's losing her memory. My stepfather can barely walk. My dad can barely walk. And they're all, I don't want to say it nasty, but I'm going to be honest, they're all 5 minutes from death. And they've been elderly for some time. So I thought to myself, when did they start getting that way? And I thought, well, certainly that way by 75. Now, I do see 75-year-olds that are fit and they're getting around everywhere. But by 75, all of the people of the next generation that I'm related to were all hobbling, right? I'm 57. So what, 67, 77. I've got less than 20 years. If I'm going to be realistic, as long as nothing nasty happens and I die before that, I'm really talking 15 years that I won't be able to do what I'm doing now. It could be that I won't remember lines, which I don't remember them too well already because my memory's already going. It will certainly be that I won't be able to run. I won't be able to do a lot of things. If I've only got 15 years, I want to enjoy them. I want to pump everything I've got into them. As you mentioned, we've got a different way of thinking if we've come through a life-altering experience where there was a strong risk of death. But at the end of the day, I've got a lot of other people I've got to consider. Anastasia has worked on this film volunteer. The makeup artists worked on this film for a kit fee only. That's not proper pay. That just means that you're not putting your hand in your pocket to pay for the product for the film. So if they ran out of eyeshadow, they've got the money there to buy another eyeshadow kit or another brush. So with all of these people working volunteer, some did it only for the fun. Others have got some dreams and hopes. So hopefully they still did it for fun. They've got dreams and hopes. And those dreams and hopes are what I'm obligated to help do something about.
Oh, I have Hibble.
Hibble!
Hello.
Yeah,
So
my obligation to everybody is to make sure, because they're actors, the actors and crew, my obligation is to make sure this film is as widely seen as possible to help boost their profile. This could be the breakout role for Anastasia. If it isn't, I'm hoping I don't have to spend my last 15 to 20 years on Earth apologizing that we didn't have the breakout film.
You'd never have to apologize for anything, David.
And
What if you don't like the film?
to jump
I don't care.
back
I work with you because I love working with you. Everything that you write and make is madcap, funny, and so fun. And just enjoy every second of it. And that is why I work with you, apart from you being my friend. And
yeah, but I did revolting things on that film where you couldn't even watch.
That's because I'm a sensitive flower. Sometimes.
Well, I was the same. There were scenes that we did that were so revolting that my reaction might be that I have to be, oh, wow, and I'd be saying, I can't do that, Gerardo. Can you film me doing that separately? What you'll get is the back of my head, and I'll move my head while you're filming her, but I'm actually going to have my eyes closed. And we had to do it that way, vice versa, because there is some pretty gross, childish humor in it.
Well, though, that has a place in the world as well. So
it goes with the schlocky films.
It does.
What I'm saying is the reason why I work with a smaller group is simply because the number that pull out, no matter how much you've warned them, how much you've talked to them, no matter what you've done, and they still will pull out at the end. Well, I'm going to tell you something that I've noticed with films. Every big star that I see when I go into their history, right? Doesn't matter if it's Barbara Streisand. You know how she's got the nicey name. Well, she didn't just do a saucy scene in, I think it was The Owl and the Pussycat, where she's in a bubble bath. Man, there is a photo shoot she did, almost naked, full on bondage in the 60s.
Wow.
It's racy, and it's something to be proud of if you want to know the truth, because that's really going against society in those days. But what I'm trying to say is every actress has done something, whether it be a schlock scene, a topless scene, a sex scene. And most of the top actresses to this day, they don't need to do a sex scene, and they do. Nicole Kidman, she's well over 50 when she did Eyes Wide Shut, right?
I don't know. There's a lot of movies I haven't seen, but there's a lot that I've heard of.
Well, let's
But
just
I
say
think,
that actors that are at the top that don't have to do nude scenes still do them. Now, I'm not asking for a nude scene from anyone. What I'm saying is you don't make it by talking to the producer like myself and telling me all the fucking shit you won't do. Look at it from a non-movie view. You want to go for a job.
Yeah.
The more skills you have that you can put into play, the more likely you'll get a job. So if you're an accountant, if you say, I've got experience with law, I got first year in law, I've got my master's of business, the more of these things you can do and can be called on to do, and the higher level you can do it, the more likely you are to get work. Now, I'm telling you, the more likely you are to be a star is the more things you're willing to do in a film. And
So
films
really,
aren't there
this
to
is
be
going
people
to open
staring
up-
off in space. They're not there for people to stare in space and be boring. They're there to offend. They're there to shock. They're there to excite. They're there to stand out with big stories.
and to entertain.
Yeah, well, that is entertaining, a big story.
Well,
If you go,
guys, we've been on almost 2 hours.
oh, and I didn't let Anastasia talk enough. Sorry, I
That's
always do
all right.
that.
Oh, I think so much was covered. I think it was beautiful. I think it was brilliant.
Ha